The first time my wife misplaced her wedding ring, she blamed the gym. "It's in my locker," Emma said, waving her bare hand like it was nothing. "I took it off for deadlifts and forgot. Zach says metal bands can catch." Zach, her trainer, was a name I'd been hearing a lot. He was also the guy who called me brother-in-law the same afternoon my wife said the ring was at the gym. He called while I was in the garage, oil-stained and hunched over the mower that refused to start. My phone lit up with a local number I didn't recognize. "Yo, brother-in-law," the voice laughed. "Quick heads up, the ring's fine. Don't be mad at Em. She's a beast when she squats." I didn't say a word. He hung up before I found mine. I stared at the wall pegboard where my tools hung in polite rows, each outline sharply drawn from weekends when organizing felt like control. My stomach felt like someone had dropped a dumbbell into it from shoulder height. We live outside Houston, in a tan two-story with a dog-worn backyard and a cedar mailbox the HOA hates. I'm a service manager at a vinyl window factory. I don't lift, I haul, ladders, sample racks, expectation. Emma is a speech pathologist who started going hard at a boutique gym the summer our 10th anniversary snuck past without a plan. At first, I loved the change. She was happier, sleeping better, using words like macros and tempo. Then the girls' night started. It was almost artful, the timing of them. Always Thursdays, always the girls, always the same formula. A selfie boomerang with clinking glasses, Manhattan skyline filter copy-pasted from someone else's story, and a caption that read, "My whole heart," under faces I'd never met. She'd come home smelling like citrus shampoo and someone else's cologne. And our golden retriever, Buster, would lick her shoes as if they were dipped in steak. "Babe, you're wearing my hoodie," she'd say. And Buster would tilt his head like he understood the joke, and I didn't. The ring story should have been small. I wanted it to be small. I wanted to be the guy who trusts his wife and his marriage and his luck. We were 12 years in. We had Sunday routines, a dent in the couch cushion that fit both of us if we pretzeled a knee here and a shoulder there. But the call, brother-in-law, echoed in places that used to echo with promises. And the echo didn't feel like an accident. That same night, Buster trotted into our bedroom with a hooded sweatshirt clenched in his mouth like a trophy. He hopped on the bed and pawed at the cotton until it flopped open. It wasn't mine. It smelled like a locker room and dryer sheets and a spritz of something aggressively masculine, like if swagger were bottled. "Where'd you get that?" Emma asked, freeze-stiff in the doorway, with damp hair trailing a wet line down her neck. "Laundry basket," I said, not looking at her. I already knew the answer was our laundry, but not our life. She crossed to the bed and pinched the hem between her fingers. Must be from the gym. They gave me a swag bag. We all got hoodies." "We?" "Girls' night, girls," she said too quickly. Buster whined and put his head on the hoodie like it was a pillow. He's a terrible liar. I'm worse. I keep trying to act surprised by things that have been inevitable for a while. I didn't blow up. I cleaned the kitchen like I was getting graded for it. I went to work and came home and asked about her clients and nodded through macro breakdowns that all sounded like word problems from high school algebra. I went to the garage and tightened bolts on things that weren't loose. The gym called my phone exactly 0 times after that day. Emma started leaving her phone face down on the counter in a way that made it more conspicuous than a flare. There are rules in Texas about recordings. One-party consent. You can legally record a conversation you're part of. You can't bug someone else's car like a TV detective unless you like handcuffs. I read until my eyes hurt. I didn't want a clever scheme. I wanted the truth in a form that didn't dirty me to get it. On a Thursday, the rain slanted across the interstate and slammed our cedar mailbox like it owed it money. Emma was with the girls. The house felt too quiet. Buster scratched at the door, restless in a way that made me restless too. I drove to the shopping center with the boutique gym and sat in my truck with the wipers clacking like metronomes for worry. Through the rain, I saw them. The neon signage, the wall of mirrors, the air bike torture devices. The front windows let you see too much. I recognized Emma immediately, even in a room full of women who all looked like they were sculpted by someone with opinions. She was laughing at something the trainer said. He was a little too tan for February, with a haircut that promised you didn't have to be 40 if you bought enough hair product. He put a hand on Emma's waist to correct her form and didn't move it away quickly enough to be professional. The rain stopped. The glass fogged. The session ended. I didn't go inside. I'm not good at scenes. I grew up with a dad who solved everything by tightening the right screw. If something rattled, you fixed it. If it didn't rattle, it meant you couldn't hear it over the noise of your own denial. When Emma got home, she kissed my cheek and called me love, in the way you call a dog buddy when he's about to get his shots. She showered, emerged in a robe, and leaned on the door frame with her hand tucked under her elbow like the ring would be there if the fabric were thinner. "Girls are planning a trip," she said. "Hill country, cabins, wine tastings. You should be happy. I'm finally relaxing." "Bring the ring," I said. "Cabins are full of splinters." She laughed. "You're such a dad." "I'm nobody's brother-in-law," I said to her face for the first time, and watched the laugh freeze into something brittle. "What?" she said, voice off by half a note. "Nothing," I said, because it wasn't nothing and we both knew it. And if we said it out loud, the walls would shift in ways we couldn't shift back. You can love somebody and also know exactly where they'll lie. You can chart it like a map, pin each story to the wall with red string, and still find yourself hoping the ink fades and means the root never existed. For 2 weeks, I did nothing except pay attention. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't ask leading questions. I put a sticky note on the inside of my skull that said, "Don't guess. Observe." Girls' night came with receipts from places she hadn't been. The credit card statements read like the itinerary of a person who lives in the same city I do but not the same life. A taco place you have to stand in line for 40 minutes at, she hates lines. A wine bar that only serves natural wines that taste like petting a goat. A hotel lounge I'd never heard of. There's a difference between bad alibis and indifference. She was either careless or confident. Either way, it meant she believed I wouldn't look. The hoodie reappeared on laundry day. A bottle cap fell out of the pocket and rolled under the washer. I fished it out. The logo was a stylized Z. Not for Zach, for Zephyr, the boutique gym brand. I'd seen it in vinyl on the mirror next to the squat racks. Inside the pocket there was also a folded punch card. Free smoothies after 10 punches. The name scribbled on the back. Zach T. The T had a little flourish, like he dotted his letters with swagger. I started talking to Buster like he could answer. If I ask, she'll lie. If she lies, I'll hear it, and hearing it will be worse than suspecting. Buster brought me a tennis ball and thunked it against my shin like that was the rule. If you can't solve it, throw something. The call came on a Monday afternoon while I was on a job site near Katy, standing on a porch that wasn't finished yet. The number popped up with the same area code as the gym. I answered on speaker because my hands were full of measurements and rainwater. "Bro, it's Zach," he said, all grin through the line. "Tell Em she left her water bottle. Again, I'll drop it by if you want. Don't worry, brother-in-law, I got you." "Thanks," I said. It came out flat. There's a register in your voice that makes other men push. I could hear him search for it and not find it. "No worries," he said. a breeze of bro energy, and hung up. That night, I placed my phone next to the fruit bowl like it always lives there, and turned on the voice memo app. One-party consent, my house, my kitchen, my conversation, legal, clean, a mirror held up to a picture that had been shifting for months. Emma walked in at 8:40 with hair that was too perfect for rain and a laugh that was shaped like someone else's joke. I let her pour 2 fingers of Makers into one glass and pretend we were still a we. I asked about the girls. She named 3 women I'd never met and a 4th one whose Instagram says she lives in Denver. I nodded and asked nothing, and watched her mouth form the kinds of syllables you form when the truth is a stone you've been balancing on your tongue for a long time. "Where's your ring?" I asked, as gently as I could fake. She flinched like I'd opened a cabinet she'd forgotten how to close. "Locker," she said. "At the gym," I said. "At the gym," she repeated. And in the recording, you can hear the smallest edge of a question mark at the end, like she was asking me to accept the answer one more time. I didn't play it for her. I played it for me later, in the truck behind the Home Depot where men go to be alone with their tools and their fear. I listened to how calm I sounded and hated myself a little for how much pride that gave me. Competence is a drug when your life is slipping. It makes you feel like an adult in a room that keeps being rearranged while you're asleep. A week later, one of the girls called me. Not a number I recognized. Private, blocked, the voice pitched low like we were planning a prison break. "I don't want to be in this," she said. "But I also don't want to watch you bleed out slowly." Who is this? Someone who's been a friend to your wife for a long time and isn't okay being a co-conspirator anymore. "Okay," I said into the quiet. "She's not with us on Thursdays," the voice said. "She hasn't been for months. He picks her up at the alley behind the gym so she can say it's a session. Sometimes it is. Then they go to the Cactus Hotel on West Park. Room 314 twice. 511 once. He calls you brother-in-law because he thinks it's funny how you and he are the same age, but he looks better in a tank top. Why are you telling me? Because she's not telling you. And because I want to stay friends with the version of her that used to exist," she said, and hung up before I could say thank you or how dare you or anything else that would have sounded like a man trying to hold on to dignity with his fingertips. I sat with that for 3 hours. The truth is a key that opens a door and also unlocks a cage. You don't always get to choose which one you walk through. I booked a room at the Cactus for the following Thursday. I didn't book 314 or 511. I booked 401 because the hallway camera points at it and I would be in frame walking past. That mattered later, more than I expected. I didn't intend to kick the door in or punch anybody or make a speech. I wanted to be where the truth was happening. And I wanted to be steady enough that when the court asked me to explain myself, my explanation wouldn't crack under weight. I wore a gray hoodie and a baseball cap and looked like a man bringing someone ice. I was bringing myself a cold I couldn't shake. They didn't show. Not to 314, not to 511, not even to the parking lot. At the time, the not-quite girl called Like Clockwork. Zach posted a video in his car, shirtless under a seatbelt, singing along to a song about loyalty. Emma texted me a photo of a charcuterie board with 3 other women's hands in frame and captioned, "My whole heart." One of those hands had a Denver tattoo. Another had a wedding band with a sapphire you can see from across a room. If I were writing a manual for betrayers, I'd put in a chapter called "Don't Overproduce Your Lies." The next morning, the gym posted a story of Zach spotting a woman squatting a weight I can't deadlift on my best day. Emma's ponytail is in the mirror. The caption says, "Beast mode with this queen," and tags nobody. I sent the story to my email. I archived my email. I placed my phone on the counter in the fruit bowl and recorded Emma telling me she had fallen asleep on my sister's couch because they were watching Real Housewives, and one episode had morphed into 5. "Funny," I said. "My sister texted me a picture of her sleeping alone on the couch at 9:15 because her cats kept opening the cabinet with the treats." Emma's eyes did a quick math problem and failed to solve for X. "I must have gotten the nights mixed up," she said. "One-party consent is legal in Texas," I said to the fruit bowl. And she blinked like I'd spoken a different language. I didn't throw her out. I hired a lawyer. I opened a new checking account and put half our money there like the law says. I asked for the dog. I asked for the truck. I asked for my dignity to arrive before the court date. My lawyer, a woman named Harper, who speaks in declarative sentences that make juries believe her, told me to gather what I could gather without breaking anything we'd have to fix later. "Don't touch her phone," she said. "Don't go into the gym locker room. Don't accidentally open her laptop. If you get impulsive, go alphabetize your socket wrenches." "I already did," I said. "I like you," she said. "Don't make me stop." The all-in moment came a week before our temporary orders hearing. Emma's attorney filed a motion to exclude illegally obtained communications, which is a lawyer way of saying you don't like the truth because it's inconvenient. They claimed I had coerced her into conversations, that my recordings were a setup, that I had visited the hotel as a stalker with a camera. The affidavit attached included screenshots of my hotel confirmation and a grainy still of me walking past 401 like a dad carrying a cooler to a tailgate. I felt the floor tilt. "Relax," Harper said. "It's theater. They're trying to paint you as a jealous husband who's building a case out of paranoia." "I booked the room," I said, staring at the motion until the words wobbled. "I put myself there." "Yes. And you didn't hide it. That helps." "What if the judge hates me on sight?" "She might," Harper said, "because she's the kind of person who doesn't lie to you when you need the truth the most. So we bring in 2 things they won't expect. 1, the audio where she offers the gym excuse before you even ask. 2, chain of custody for anything that didn't come from you." "Book a chain of what?" "Proof the video screenshots didn't pass through your tinkering little hands," she said, smiling. "I've already subpoenaed the gym for their story archives. And I have a signed declaration from their social media manager, director of whatever. He's 23 and very earnest. Stay calm." I stayed calm until the morning of the hearing, when the gym's lawyer moved to quash everything as a privacy violation. They claimed their stories were ephemeral expressions and not records. And for a minute, the judge looked like she agreed. My stomach did that dumbbell drop again. "All right," the judge said, peering over reading glasses. "If Mr. Miller's case hinges on Instagram stories and marital hearsay, we're in for a short day." Harper stood. She doesn't rush. She waits for silence and then drops a stone into it. "Your Honor, we don't need the stories to prove the affair. They are context. What we do have is a voice recording made by Mr. Miller in his kitchen, one-party consent, and a voicemail from Mr. Thompson, Mr. Zach T., in which he identifies himself, references Mrs. Miller by nickname, and uses the term brother-in-law. We also have a sworn statement from a third party who wishes to remain anonymous for safety, stating the times and locations of meetings. Finally, we have a witness waiting outside who can testify to seeing the parties enter the Cactus Hotel on 2 separate evenings. She's late because of an accident on I-10, but she is here." "She is?" I whispered, because this was new. "She is now," Harper whispered back, eyes still on the judge. Emma's attorney objected to everything at once. Hearsay, relevance, foundation. The judge cocked an eyebrow. "Counselor, You can't object to air." The bailiff cracked the door. A woman in scrubs slipped in, hair frizzed by humidity, badge clipped to a pocket that said RN. I recognized her as the neighbor on the corner, the one whose porch faces the alley behind the gym. I'd waved at her 100 times without learning her name. Today her name was Leah, and the way she said it made it sound like solid ground. Leah testified that she parks on West Park behind the cactus because the hospital charges for garages at night, and the hotel doesn't tow if you look like you belong. She testified to seeing Emma and Zach walk in together at 9:42 on a Thursday. Laughing, she testified that she saw them again 2 weeks later. Same entrance, different shoes, no wedding ring on Emma's left hand. She said she didn't want to be involved in people's mess. But she also didn't want to watch a good dog end up with the wrong person. The courtroom chuckled. Even the judge smiled, a quick crack across a composed face. "The court will accept the recordings and the testimony for purposes of temporary orders," the judge said, tapping her pencil. "Final findings are for another day, but I am not blind or deaf. Mr. Miller gets exclusive use of the residence. The dog, what's his name?" "Buster," I said. "Of course it is," she said. "The dog stays with Mr. Miller. Mrs. Miller will remove her belongings within 10 days with a peace officer present. No disparagement of the other party on social media. No introducing romantic partners to friends' children, if there are any friends' children, during the pendency of this case. We'll reconvene for division of assets if you can't settle." Emma didn't look at me. Her eyes were glassy in a way that was part anger and part something like grief that arrives too late to save what it's grieving. Zach wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. Men like that aren't built for benches and bailiffs. They're built for mirrors and comments from strangers. After court, Emma asked for a minute in the hallway. Harper hung back with her legal pad, pretending to write and actually watching every micro-expression like it could be weaponized later if needed. Emma leaned on a wall as if the paint could absorb her. "You didn't have to make me a villain," she said, voice tight as climb rope. "You did that without me," I said, softer than she expected, which made her blink. "I was lonely," she said. "You work, and when you're home, you're tired. Zach made me feel seen." "The ring felt seen too," I said. "Just not by either of us." She swallowed. It wasn't supposed to be serious. "Then why the hotel?" I said. Not a question. A punctuation mark at the end of a sentence only one of us had the courage to read out loud. She did not apologize. She did not declare love. She did not accuse me again of being a jealous man. She pressed her lips together and nodded at something only she could see, like a man reading a map upside down and pretending he knows the way. She moved out on a Sunday. The peace officer was polite. He pet Buster and said, "Good boy." And Buster wagged like nothing in his world had changed, except witch hands through his ball. Emma took half the furniture and none of the plants. She left the hoodie in the laundry room, folded on the dryer like a flag. I put it in a garbage bag and set it on the curb. The truck came at dawn and took it to wherever lies go when they've been laundered too many times. The divorce wasn't quick, but it was clean enough to say out loud, "We divided what the law says you divide." She kept her retirement. I kept the house. Texas is second chances and property lines. We signed our names on lines that made us strangers again, only now our signatures were flanked by people whose job it is to make you understand what you're signing. In the settlement conference, her attorney tried a last flourish. Alimony for the lifestyle to which she'd become accustomed. Harper didn't bother to hide the laugh. The lifestyle was funded by my client's second job. Loving a woman who loved someone else, she said. The mediator coughed, and Emma stared at the table long enough to memorize the grain. The night after we signed, I found the ring in the junk drawer under the tape measures and the unraveled ADA batteries that might be dead. It was inside a velvet pouch from our jeweler, receipt tucked in. The date was 3 weeks after the first locker story. The note said, "Resizing for comfort." The band had a faint white circle where the sun hadn't hit her skin in a while. I held it between my fingers until the metal warmed and wondered whether there's a way to melt memory without melting your hand. 6 months later, the hoodies at our house all belong to me. Buster and I run the loop behind the retention pond at sunrise, when the air is still soft and the world smells like wet grass and possibility. I switch to day shift at the factory and say yes to barbecues when my neighbor invites me, even though half the crowd is divorced and the other half pretends not to be. I learned how to make eggs in a way Emma always wanted and never got, because I hate doing 2 things at once on a stove. It turns out you can cook low and slow for yourself and still feel like company. One afternoon, I was at a strip mall jeweler to resize my grandfather's watch, the one with a cracked face that ticks loud enough to count regrets. The kid behind the counter asked if I wanted to sell any scrap. "Old rings, chains, busted clasps," he said like a grocery list. I took the velvet pouch out of my pocket. The ring isn't a talisman. It's a circle of metal. I'd kept it because throwing away the past felt like lying about it, and I'm done with that. I asked the kid if he could turn it into something else. "A keychain," I said. "Nothing fancy, just something less sacred." He said he could. A week later, I attached my house key to the ring of our marriage, and the door clicked open the same way it always had. The symbolism was obvious. I let it be. I saw Zach once more in a video that somebody sent me from a different city. New gym logo on the wall, new hair color, same swagger. He was teaching a class how to stack wins, like wins are pancakes you can eat until you aren't hungry for truth. The caption said, "Brother-in-law energy only." I laughed. Not the bitter laugh that cracks in the middle. A real one, from a chest that wasn't constructed out of drywall and caution anymore. I set my phone down and took Buster out back to throw a ball until my arm hurt in a good way. Sometimes I still catch my thumb rubbing the place on my own hand where my ring used to spin when I got nervous. That's a habit that lingers. You don't get to choose which muscle memory your heart keeps. When it happens, I look at the white circle of the keychain on the counter and say the thing I wish I'd said sooner, when the first lie was small enough to step over without tripping. The truth isn't the enemy. It's the floor. If you can't stand on it, you're not standing, just balancing on furniture, waiting to fall. A year after the judge said Buster's name into the record like it mattered, I made him a promise I can keep. I took him for a drive with the windows down and told him out loud that I will never invite someone into our house who makes him feel like he needs to guard me from my own decisions. He licked the wind and sneezed and put his head on my shoulder at the red light. I whispered, "Good boy," like a prayer. It felt like one. Emma emailed me in April. Subject line, "Apologies." She said therapy had taught her how to name the hole she'd been trying to fill with attention. She said Zach had moved on to a client with a bigger Instagram and a smaller conscience. And the hollow echo sounded familiar now that she was alone with it. She didn't ask to come back. She asked if I could forgive her enough to let her forgive herself. I stared at the screen until the cursor blinked like a metronome for mercy. I told her I had forgiven her already, not because she deserved it, but because I did. I told her I hoped she'd forgive the version of herself who thought she needed a man's eyes on her to exist. I didn't tell her about the keychain. I didn't tell her about the hoodie or the nurse or the courtroom moment when I thought the judge might see me as a jealous cliché. The past belongs to both of us. The future doesn't. If you're reading this because you're in the chapter that hurts, I don't have advice that fits on a mug. I only have this. Keep your hands clean. Record what you must, but don't become the kind of person who would need to lie about how you got the truth. Hire someone who speaks in declaratives and trusts you enough to tell you when to sit down. Feed the dog. Run the loop even when it's hot and the air tastes like pretzels. And if a man calls you brother-in-law while your wife's ring is at the gym, stretch before you lift what comes next. It's heavy, but it won't crush you if you keep your back straight and your eyes up. You will set the weight down eventually. You'll realize your hands still work. You'll realize you can carry different things now. You'll realize that a circle of metal is just that, and that the floor where you stand is solid enough to build on again. You'll toss the ball. The dog will bring it back every single time. That, if nothing else, is proof of something you can trust.